all of life. And what I want to talk about is the origin of life. And we have something very, very wrong with the origin of life. And that is that we need companionship, or many of one species, or a variety of species to keep this ecosystem or this experiment alive. Is you need many things to make up this type of environment. So if you had one species growing inside this tank and it was the first thing alive ever, it wouldn't grow, it wouldn't survive, it couldn't reproduce. You need a complete ecosystem to start any type of life. It can't be singular, it has to be plural. It has to have so much energy in it. It has to have so many different microorganisms. It has to have bugs on top of the water. So when somebody says they're going to create life, it's completely impossible. They need to create biospheres. They need to create entire environments. Singularity doesn't work even in a hot, nice, warm pool like this. Life cannot start or exist in singular fashion. Anywhere around you, if you look, it's always plurality. And life started complete and organized and diverse. Otherwise, there's no chance of it surviving. You need to reproduce. You need to have food. You need to have the ability to continue on growing. And the only way to do that is if there's 10,000 different living organisms in a pond like this. And that is what creates life, is that diversity. It keeps life alive, and it makes everything possible. So all these people that are searching for the origin of life, they have it very, very wrong. It's not about the origin of life, it's about the plurality of life, is that you need all this different life just to keep one species alive. You cannot have one species doing anything. It needs to have this complete ecosystem that is keeping all the elements alive. So life had to be created in such a way that it started with plurality. It didn't start singular. It had to have all this life inside a confined ecosystem. There's no other way. That life does not work with singularity. So what that means to me is that the origin of life was completely based on plurality. Yeah, so even if you talk about the Miller-Urey experiment, where they had all these ideal conditions to create some type of a living single-cell slime, or whatever you want to call it. The problem with that is, so let's say you have a single organism that was created and it starts to live. How does it reproduce? What does it eat? How does it fit into the ecosystem that it lives in? How does it stay alive? And the problem with that is the only way life can stay alive is if it is in a plural system where there is food waiting for it, there is nutrients waiting for it, whatever it may be. It has to be available the moment that organism is created. That maintaining of life is an even bigger issue than the origin of life. How do you keep life alive? How do you keep all the components alive to make life long enough for them to make life? None of that works. None of it works. There has to be an intellectual being that is helping life create a network of life to allow life to stay alive and to do what it needs to do. So that plurality is the problem. Even with the Miller-Urey experiment, they have no plurality in that system. There is nothing there that will keep life alive. Even if they were capable of creating the first life, it still does nothing because they can't keep it alive. There's nothing there for it to eat. It can't reproduce. These simple organisms, they reproduce very quickly, very efficiently. And they need to have the partner. They need to have the resources, the food. They need to have everything in place just to survive 1 hour. And that's the problem with the origin of life. They cannot get past the plurality of the problem.